Commander? Commander Riley Hayes? I turn slowly, glass of wine in hand, the clatter of forks and polite laughter still echoing in the ballroom. A young man in Air Force dress blues stands stiffly before me, rigid, nervous, and then he does it. He salutes. It's an honor, ma'am. You led the SEAL extraction in Syria. My unit. We wouldn't be here without you. The room stills. Conversation cuts off like a severed signal. My sister's voice stumbles in the air. What are you talking about? My sister's not even... That's not... My father's silverware drops. My mother's fingers curl around her wineglass, suddenly trembling. Lauren, my perfect decorated Air Force pilot sister, goes pale. I watch it dawn on her like a slow burn, a glow she doesn't want to admit is fire. I'm Riley Hayes. I'm 34. For most of my life, I've been just Riley, not Captain Riley, not Commander. Just Riley, the one who didn't shine at the dinner table. The one they joked was good with her laptop. The one who disappeared into military intelligence and never made much noise. But here's the thing. You can survive combat. You can survive waterboarding training, enemy crossfire, being stranded behind lines in the middle of the night with no radio and nothing but a gut instinct. But family? Family is a battlefield no SEAL prepares you for. Let me ask you something. Have you ever been dismissed by your own blood? Not just ignored, but shrunk. Reduced to the version of you they've already decided is true? Because if you have, then you'll understand what happened next. Before I take you into the night, the truth cracked open in front of my entire family. Take a moment to subscribe, like this video, and drop a comment below telling me where you're watching from and what time it is in your corner of the world. I see you. I really do. Now, let's listen to my story journey. It's Lauren's promotion party. The Four Seasons Ballroom in downtown Charleston is dripping with formality. Men in medals, women in gowns, ice sculptures, Navy brass and Air Force silver clink in glasses and lapels. I shouldn't be here. I've been back stateside for 4 days. Still not sleeping, still hearing echoes of the last op. I'm sore. There's a bruise on my collarbone from where the butt of my rifle jammed during exfil. My phone buzzes every 6 hours with silent updates from my team, and I keep checking exits in every room I enter. But I'm here, because Mom asked me to come, and because some stupid leftover part of me still wants to be seen. Lauren spots me first. Her heels click with command as she crosses the room. Well, she says, sipping from a crystal flute. Didn't expect you to show. Thought you'd be too busy with... What was it? Analytics? She smiles with those polished, straight white teeth. It's not a kind smile. It's a weapon. It's good to see you too, Lauren, I say, calm, measured. Still stuck behind a desk in DC? I give a nod, non-committal. Let her think what she wants. She always has. Across the room, I spot my father, Rear Admiral Frank Hayes, Redding, holding court with a circle of old Navy buddies. His chest still decorated, his voice still sharp. He sees me, offers a nod, barely a flick of acknowledgement, then turns back to his conversation. Nothing's changed. Dinner is a blur. Lauren's commanding officer toasts her brilliance in the cockpit. My dad beams. Mom dabs at her eyes. I sip wine and say nothing. Then it happens. A young man in uniform across the table has been watching me all night. At first, I think he's just confused. Then, he stands and salutes. Commander Hayes, ma'am. Sorry to interrupt, but I'd recognize you anywhere. You pulled my unit out of Aleppo last spring. Thank you. We owe you everything. My wine glass freezes midair. Lauren scoffs, too loud. What are you talking about? That's my sister. She's not a SEAL. That's ridiculous. The air tightens. The captain's face doesn't budge. With respect, ma'am. She is. My CO said Commander Hayes led the mission. I was on the ground. I saw her. Eyes turned to me. My father stands. Riley, he says slowly. What the hell is he talking about? And just like that, everything I've been hiding cracks. I meet my father's eyes. For once, I don't look away. I'm sorry, I say. But I wasn't just working intel in DC. I've been serving as a SEAL for the past 6 years. The Syria mission was mine. The silence is volcanic. Sharp. Then my mother gasps. My father's face goes tight with disbelief. Lauren's expression twists into something I can't name. Fear? Anger? Betrayal? You're lying, she says, low and bitter. I shake my head. No, I'm not. This isn't how I wanted the truth to come out. Not in this room. Not under this spotlight. But sometimes life doesn't wait for your permission. Sometimes it blows a hole right through the story you've carefully built just to survive. Lauren turns to her CO. Is this true? He nods slowly. I didn't know it was her until tonight, but yeah, she's got a rep in the field. They call her Ghost, because no one sees her coming, and she always brings her team back. My father sits down. My mother is quietly crying. And me, I've never felt more exposed, or more seen. But this is just the beginning. I wasn't born into a family. I was born into a doctrine. Charleston, South Carolina. Naval blood runs deeper than river tides there, especially in the Hayes household. We lived just a few blocks from the harbor in a pristine colonial-style home that smelled like lemon polish and order. The walls were lined with brass frames, Dad in his dress whites on an aircraft carrier. Dad shaking hands with high-ranking officers, Dad pinning pilot wings on Lauren's uniform. No photos of my swim meets. No medals from my robotics tournaments. From the start, it was clear who the spotlight belonged to. My father, Rear Admiral Frank Hayes, had one rule: excellence or irrelevance. His voice was calm but sharp. Hayes don't coast, he'd say at the dinner table, passing the green beans like he was handing off coordinates to a strike team. Service is honor, and honor is earned. He wasn't cruel. Just heavy. He spoke in mission briefs and expected results. He didn't tolerate whining, or distractions, or, in my case, daughters who didn't fit the mold. My mother, Susan, taught high school civics and knew every general by name. She wasn't as commanding as Dad, but she reinforced the system like a second wall. She smiled at Lauren's Air Force medals the way most moms fawn over engagement rings. A natural leader, she would whisper with pride, touching Lauren's arm. But me? I was the quiet one, the precocious one, the one always in her own head. Then there was Lauren, 3 years older, blonde, symmetrical, built like a recruiting poster and twice as strategic. She aced her flight simulations at the academy and earned her call sign Falcon in less than a year. She didn't just fly, she soared. And she was treated like a general in training from age 16. She loved it, and she loved knowing she was winning. If I got an A+ on a calculus exam, Dad would nod and ask, "Have you thought about applying that in real-world tactics?" If Lauren skipped a family dinner to study flight maneuvers, he'd say, "That's dedication." When I built a surveillance drone in high school that tracked coastal erosion patterns, an actual functioning piece of tech, I tried to show Dad. He glanced at it, then turned to Lauren. "What's the latest with your squadron simulations?" That was always the way. If Lauren was the blade of the family sword, I was the handle. Quiet, useful, ignored. I remember one Sunday afternoon, I was 13, and we were polishing Dad's medals for a charity gala. Lauren held up one with 2 fingers and said, "Riley wouldn't even know what this one means?" I did. It was a Navy Distinguished Service Medal, but I didn't speak. I just kept polishing. She laughed. Dad smiled. I said nothing. And somewhere in that silence I began to harden. By the time I was old enough to think about my future, the path had already been drawn. Annapolis, then flight school, or intelligence, or maybe a diplomatic route like my godfather in D.C. But I didn't want to follow footsteps. I wanted to make my own. So I applied to MIT under an alias, just to see. When the acceptance came, I didn't show anyone. I already knew how that conversation would go. Instead, I went to Georgia Tech. Still excellent, but far enough from home to breathe. The night before I left, Dad sat me down in the study. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. "You could have had doors open for you with our name," he said, tapping his temple like it was a map. "But you want to go write code? Be my guest. Just don't come back thinking that's service." Mom hovered in the hallway behind him, eyes wet, mouth shut. She didn't say goodbye. Lauren drove me to the airport. On the way, she laughed and said, "So you're going to be one of those nerds who think they're smarter than everyone else, huh?" I looked out the window. "No, I'm going to be someone you never see coming." She rolled her eyes. "Keep dreaming, Riley." 4 years later, I graduated summa cum laude in computer science with a focus on cybersecurity systems. My research on deep code infiltration was published in a military journal under a pseudonym. I was offered a role at a civilian cybersecurity firm, but turned it down. Instead, I enlisted. My parents found out through a family friend who'd seen my name listed on a base roster. Lauren called me that night. She sounded amused. "The Navy? Really?" she said. "What, are you going to be filing reports all day while I'm out flying recon?" "No," I said. "I'm going to do something that matters." "Cute," she replied. "Let me know how pushing papers goes." I didn't need them to approve, but I would have been lying if I said it didn't hurt. That's the thing about family. You learn how to hide your bruises early, not the ones on your body, the ones on your sense of self. You get real good at patching them with sarcasm, ambition, or silence. By the time I was called into a classified meeting at my second year of service, I didn't flinch when the officer across from me said, "We're testing a new SEAL integration program. Quiet. Off the books. Female operatives." He slid a file across the table. My name was on it. "You've been flagged. Psychological resilience, tech advantage, marksmanship, physical endurance, and something else." "What?" I asked. He grinned. "You don't seem to need anyone's permission." He was right. And just like that, the girl nobody saw disappeared. I don't tell my family about the SEAL integration program. I let them believe I'm still in intelligence, manning a desk in some secure, air-conditioned bunker. Occasionally, I send a text about reporting deadlines or data briefings. Lauren sends back the occasional thumbs-up emoji or a sarcastic, "How thrilling." She thinks she's flying over the real work, while I'm still paddling in the kiddie pool. Let her think that. The fewer people who know, the better. They call the program a pilot experiment. They don't say guinea pig, but it's written between the lines. Only a handful of us are selected. 7 women, each pulled from different branches, with wildly different backgrounds. What we share is something harder to define: grit, discipline, and a refusal to quit, even when the odds say we should have. The first day, we arrive at a nondescript facility in the desert. The wind is dry. The instructors wear mirrored sunglasses and expressions like concrete. One of them, a tall, broad-chested man with a scar across his jaw, looks us over like we're broken gear. "This isn't a diversity campaign," he barks. "You're not here to prove women can do it. You're here to prove you're the best. Period. If you need special treatment, ring the bell now and go home." None of us move. The next 6 months break something in all of us. Then, piece by piece, we rebuild. Training is brutal, not just physically, though the cold, the heat, The miles of open ocean swims nearly undo me more than once, but mentally. They tear into our minds, our fears, our identities. They want to see if we'll crack. I come close. I remember one week when my swim buddy quit mid-drill. I had to drag her gear and mine across a muddy ravine, blood in my boots, lungs screaming. I saw stars by the time I reached the checkpoint. The instructor just looked at me and said, "You're carrying her failure and yours. Let's see if you survive both." I did. Another time, they stuffed us into a chamber and simulated a chemical attack. Gas filled the air. We had to find our gear blind, gasping, disoriented. I heard one woman vomit and curl into herself. I heard another sob. I counted to 30 in my head. Then again, until my hands stopped shaking. I didn't cry. I didn't fold. They started calling me steel. Not because I was the strongest, but because I bent without breaking. Meanwhile, I kept the lie alive. I'd call home on Sundays when I could. My mom would say, "How's the new intel team?" And I'd answer, "Busy." Dad wouldn't even come to the phone most days. Lauren would occasionally hop on, mostly to brag. "Did you hear they're moving me to Falcon Lead next month? Guess who's getting triple commendation?" "That's great, Lauren," I'd say, biting the inside of my cheek. "And what about you, little sister? Still decoding Russian voicemails?" I'd laugh like it was funny. Something like that. The truth was, I was working towards something they couldn't even imagine. And honestly, I didn't want them to. This wasn't about them anymore. Not about Dad's approval or Lauren's praise. Somewhere along the line, I stopped needing their spotlight. I didn't want applause. I wanted clarity, control, the ability to do something real, something that mattered. It became clear during Hell Week. That's the final gauntlet, the one that separates talk from truth. 5 days, little sleep, constant physical and mental pressure. The bell rings every few hours as someone quits. Every ring echoes down your spine like a dare. By the third night, half our group is gone. We're cold, soaked, exhausted. They've filled our boots with ice water and made us carry rafts across sand dunes while screaming insults in our ears. I can barely see. My hands are numb. My shoulders scream. But when I close my eyes, I hear Lauren's voice. "Keep dreaming, Riley." I hear Dad's voice. "That's not service." And that's all I need. I finish Hell Week crawling, bleeding, vomiting behind a dune. But I finish. Only 3 of us graduate. At the pinning ceremony, it's just us and a few silent commanding officers. No press, no fanfare, no family. One by one, they hand us our tridents. When they place mine in my palm, I feel everything and nothing at once. Not joy, not pride, just stillness. A man in a dark uniform steps forward. He's older, white-haired, hands behind his back like he's holding secrets. "You're not just part of the program now, Commander Hayes," he says quietly. "You're one of us." I nod, unable to speak. My orders come fast. Middle East, Asia, covert exfiltrations, silent kill ops, intel recovery missions in war zones so deep they might as well be hell. We're ghosts. We move like whispers, leave no traces. Sometimes I wake up drenched in sweat, unsure which continent I'm on. I carry scars no one sees. On my ribs, my thighs, my temple. I've stitched up my own wounds in a basement with no power. I've buried comrades with my own hands. I've whispered last words to men who didn't make it out. And still, no one at home knows. To my parents, I'm the disappointment. To Lauren, I'm the backup singer to her solo. To me, I'm becoming someone I recognize more and more. I don't need their praise, but sometimes, when I'm in the dark, the wind hissing through desert cracks, and the mission has gone sideways, I still hear Lauren's voice in my head. You're not built for this. I smile through the pain. Watch me. The first time I got shot at, I didn't blink. Not because I'm fearless, no one is, but because everything slowed down. Like the space between heartbeats had widened, and all the years of training locked into place. I saw the flash, heard the crack, and before I even thought, I'd already pivoted, returned fire, and signaled my unit to flank left. That was in Fallujah, my second deployment. We were sweeping a residential zone for a high-value target. Intel was shaky, but the source was solid. As always, we were ghosts. No patches, no names, just shadows in camo. I didn't tell my family. They thought I was on assignment in Brussels. Lauren sent me a text that week about a speech she gave at an Air Force Women in Leadership event. They called me inspiring, she wrote. You'd love it. Maybe next year you can come too if your schedule ever chills out. I stared at her message while blood dried on my gloves. I was 7,000 miles away, crouched in a ruined stairwell, whispering commands through gritted teeth. But to her, I was still little Riley, good with data. And that was fine, because silence had become my shield. There's a kind of power in secrecy, at first. You get to craft the narrative. Let them underestimate you. Let them laugh. You walk through rooms full of people who think they know who you are, and you smile, because you've seen things they can't even pronounce. But over time, the silence starts to rot. It hollows out birthdays, phone calls, family dinners. You sit across from your mother as she passes the mashed potatoes, and you smile like your last mission didn't involve pulling a teammate's body out of a collapsed tunnel. You send Christmas cards with fake job titles and laugh when Lauren teases you for being so vague, classic Riley, and it hurts, but you keep doing it. Because that's the deal. You protect your team, you protect the mission, and you swallow the cost. Then came Syria. Aleppo was a nightmare. You've seen pictures. Rubble, smoke, children with eyes too old for their faces. But you don't feel it until you're there, until your boots crunch on broken toys and every wall has a bullet hole like an open wound. We'd been briefed that a joint unit was pinned down in a collapsed safe house. Air Force personnel, foreign intel, and one civilian embedded with them. Our mission? Extract. No casualties, no trail. In and out, in under an hour. We trained for 2 days, studied satellite footage, drew 3 different egress maps. The enemy controlled the alleyways. We'd need to go loud and fast, then vanish. When we landed, things went to hell immediately. The secondary exfil route collapsed, literally. A drone strike had caved in part of the access tunnel. I had to make a call. Split the unit, I said over comms. Alpha team with me, we draw fire. Bravo team pulls the hostages. My second hesitated. Commander, that's suicide. No, I said, that's the job. We lost comms mid-execution. I remember running through smoke, my rifle clutched like an extension of my ribs, heart punching my sternum. We laid suppressive fire from a gutted apartment complex while Bravo pulled the captives from a side street. The firefight lasted 6 minutes. Longest 6 of my life. I took a hit in the shoulder, graze only, and didn't even feel it until later. We made it to the chopper with seconds to spare. All lives intact. No trail. Success. Except no one was allowed to know it was mine. Back home, I reported in, stitched my shoulder without anesthesia, and filed my after-action under classified. The next day, I got a call from the Admiral. You just saved 23 lives, he said, including an embedded strategist from our own Joint Command. My voice was hoarse. Permission to brief my team? You already did your job, Commander. That's the reward. I hung up and stared at the wall for a full hour. Later that week, Lauren called me. It was rare for her to call without prompting. Hey, she said, her voice breezy. You'll never guess what happened. One of my colleagues in Special Ops says someone in Naval Intel just pulled off an insane rescue in Syria. Super hush-hush. They're calling the commander a ghost. Isn't that wild? I smiled. A sad, quiet smile. Yeah, I said. Sounds impressive. You ever get to do anything that exciting? She teased. I paused, my shoulder aching. Not really, I said. I mostly push papers. She laughed. Figures. Well, when you're done alphabetizing reports, maybe you can help me prep for my promotion speech. They're making me squadron lead next month. Congrats, I said, and I meant it. She didn't know I'd saved her colleague. She didn't know I'd made the call that got them all out alive. She didn't even know the ghost she joked about was me. But that's the sacrifice. The mission gets the credit, not the name behind it. And you go back to being invisible. You'd think that would harden you, that enough of those moments would turn you cold. But sometimes, it just makes you ache. I'd spent 6 years living in shadows, holding my pride in a clenched jaw, only to be the punchline of my sister's latest joke. I told myself I didn't need them to see me, but the cracks were starting to show. Hell finds you in the quiet hours. When the room goes dark, the world forgets your name, and all you're left with is the sound of your own breath. After Syria, I started having those hours more often. The bruises healed, but something deeper lingered, something heavy that clung to me like damp clothes. I was back stateside, technically on recovery leave, but I didn't rest. Couldn't. I stayed sharp, kept training, logged miles on the track before dawn and practiced tactical breathwork alone in my apartment like I was still on deployment. It wasn't about proving myself anymore. It was about staying useful, staying needed. Because the second I wasn't, I'd vanish again, and no one back home would notice. About a month after Aleppo, I got a call from Commander Foster, my original evaluator back in the Pilot SEAL program. The man who'd first handed me that file across the table and told me, "You don't need permission." He never called unless something serious was coming. I picked up. "Hayes. Got an op for you," he said. "You're not first choice. You're the only choice." I didn't ask questions. I never did. "Send me the briefing." He exhaled. "You won't like it. It's a joint command mission. Embedded intel, tight timeline, civilian risk factor." "What's the location?" "Yemen. Border zone." The word itself sent a shiver down my back. Yemen wasn't just unstable. It was a powder keg. Cartels, insurgents, blacklisted trade routes. No one wanted to be sent there. You only went if you were the one they couldn't afford to lose. Or the one they didn't mind sacrificing. I met the team in the hangar at 0400. 12 of us, tight, lethal, quiet. Most of them I'd trained with, some I'd bled with. Sarah Mendoza was there, my second. Sharp-eyed, calm, unshakable. She caught my gaze and gave a single nod. "Commander," she said. "Good to see you, Mendoza." We boarded without fanfare, no send-off, no flags. That's the life. You come in alone. You go out alone. The mission was extraction again. A captured informant linked to a missing U.S. operative. High value. No room for error. Command had intelligence on a compound buried inside a bombed-out village. Entry was tight, exit tighter. We had maybe 45 minutes on the ground before local militias would overrun us. In other words, a suicide run. I didn't flinch. Not because I wasn't scared, but because there was clarity in the danger. Out there, you either knew who you were, or you didn't make it back. The operation started smooth. Too smooth. We breached the compound with surgical precision, cleared rooms, extracted the asset, and secured the intel packet hidden in a floor vent. I felt the familiar rhythm settle over me, decisions firing like neurons, breath syncing with movement, mind and body aligned. But it never stays smooth. Just as we exfiltrated to the extraction point, a half-collapsed warehouse, we hit resistance. 3 trucks, armed hostiles, RPGs on the ridge, no air support, no backup. One of my men took a bullet to the thigh. We dragged him behind cover, bleeding fast. The asset was panicking, screaming in Arabic, kicking at Sarah. The rest of the squad was pinned down behind debris. We were 5 minutes out from the evac window. No time for democracy. I grabbed Sarah by the vest. You lead the others to the rally point. I'll hold this flank. You'll get cut off. Better me than all of us. She stared. That's a direct suicide move, Commander. I know. She didn't argue. That's why she was my second. I took 2 extra mags and a smoke grenade and ducked into the alley behind the warehouse. I fired in calculated bursts, drawing fire from the trucks. My cover was a crumbling wall and pure luck. Twice I had to throw myself flat as bullets tore over my head. But it worked. They shifted focus. Sarah got the team moving. I heard the crackle of their voices over comms as they reported crossing the rail line, 20 meters from exfil. My breath was ragged. My shoulder throbbed. Old wound, angry again. My left leg had gone numb from crouching. I counted seconds, then heard it. The chopper. Louder. Closer. My cue. I popped the smoke, dashed into open ground and bolted. RPG slammed into the dirt behind me. Debris flew. I hit the deck. I scrambled up, bleeding from my ear now. Vision swimming. But I made it. Sarah hauled me into the bird herself. We didn't talk on the ride back. No one cheers in the chopper. You just check wounds, nod in silence, and count the ones who made it. All of us did. But barely. I got another commendation. Another file marked classified eyes only. Another notch in a ledger no one would see. Back home, Lauren posted a new photo of her in dress blues receiving another medal. Proud to serve, the caption read. Thousands of likes. Dad reshared it with the comment, excellence runs in the blood. No mention of me. Never was. I sat on my floor that night, legs sore, blood still crusting beneath my sleeve, and looked at the screen until it blurred. I didn't cry. I hadn't cried in years, but I felt something. Not sadness, not even bitterness. Something quieter. Something that felt like grief for a life I'd never lived. A version of me that maybe, just maybe, didn't need to be invisible to be seen. I never thought the first real accusation would come from Lauren. We'd been playing this passive-aggressive Cold War for years. Her snide remarks, my silence. Her accolades, my ghosts. But it wasn't until the Syria operation made quiet ripples in classified circles that the frost between us turned to fire. I didn't know it had started to leak. Didn't realize certain high-clearance officials had whispered just enough for rumors to trickle down the ranks. Not names, just events. Just some commander, female, ghost team, exfil in Aleppo. And Lauren, always sniffing for relevance, caught wind. She called out of nowhere one evening. No small talk. Hey Riley, I just came from a panel with Special Ops brass. Someone mentioned an all-woman unit. SEALs. Said they pulled a near-impossible extraction in Syria last year. I froze, my dinner cooling on the table. That's so, I said. You wouldn't know anything about that, would you? I laughed like it was a joke. Lauren, I'm still in DC filing reports, remember? She paused. A strange silence bloomed between us. Then she said, Right, of course. Anyway, just thought it was funny. They called the commander a ghost in boots. That doesn't sound like you. I could hear it in her tone. She was probing, testing, waiting for a crack in my voice. But I gave her none. The real fallout came a few weeks later. There'd been a routine audit of encrypted comms traffic after a separate operation had gone sideways. One of my transmissions had crossed a dated Air Force relay channel used temporarily during Aleppo. It was nothing. A reroute. But it caught attention. Some analyst flagged the timing and location. And then the name Commander R. Hayes started circulating in hushed corners. I was called in for questioning. Office of Naval Oversight. Neutral tone. Cold room. Commander Hayes, did you transmit data across a joint force relay on March 18th for 600 hours? Yes. Secondary network was down. It was emergency protocol. Were you aware that the relay was shared by non-naval assets, including Air Force units without Level 7 clearance? I followed the emergency cross-routing procedures outlined in the comms failsafe doctrine, page 72, section D. A long pause. Understood. But the look in their eyes said otherwise. They weren't accusing me of failure. They were accusing me of exposing something they couldn't control. The truth. A woman had led that mission. A woman their own people had written off. And now it was leaking. They were looking for a scapegoat to plug the story before it ignited. I walked out of the debrief with sweat between my shoulder blades and one thought hammering in my mind. This is the cost of being visible. 2 days later, Lauren sent an email. Not a call. Subject line. So, you're the ghost? The body of the message was short, blunt. I spoke with Captain Raddick. He confirmed a Commander Hayes led the Aleppo op. You lied to us, to Mom, to Dad, to me. I don't even know who you are anymore. You let me look stupid. I talked about your assignment in DC like it was real. I vouched for you. Was that your plan? Let me play the star while you built a shadow resume? Don't respond. Don't respond. It echoed harder than all the accusations. Because beneath it wasn't just anger. It was betrayal. But not the kind she thought. Lauren believed I'd betrayed her. What she didn't realize was, I'd betrayed myself. By keeping the peace. By staying small to keep them comfortable. By letting her think she was the only Hayes daughter with blood in her boots. And now the secret had grown too large to contain. My mother called the next night. Her voice was unsteady. Quiet. Like she didn't quite believe her own words. Riley. Honey. Lauren's very upset. She says there's something you've been hiding. Something about seals? I didn't answer right away. My throat closed. Sweetheart, she said again, softer this time. Is it true? I could lie. Say it was all a misunderstanding. Blame the rumor mill. Hang up and disappear again into the classified shadows. But I couldn't do it anymore. Yeah, Mom, I whispered. It's true. A long silence. And then, oh, followed by the smallest sound. A breath, catching. A tremble. The softest kind of heartbreak. I thought you were safe, she said. All these years, I thought you were safe. I know. I didn't get to worry for you. I didn't know I should. I know. More silence. Then, almost broken. Why didn't you tell us? Because you wouldn't have believed me. Because I needed you to be proud of me, and I didn't think you could be. Because it was easier to be invisible than disappointing. But I only said, because I couldn't, Mom. I signed something that meant more than my comfort. 3 hours later, Lauren texted again. Dad wants to talk. He's pissed. You better show up at the gala this weekend. If you're going to blow up our family image, at least have the guts to do it in person. I didn't reply. I just bought the plane ticket. Because maybe it was time. Time to stop being the ghost. Time to let them see everything. Even if it burned the whole table down. Charleston looks different when you haven't been home in 2 years. The trees are still moss-draped. The breeze still tastes like salt and memory. But the house? The house feels smaller, like it's shrunk around the weight of secrets no one knows how to hold. I drive past it on my way to the gala, my parents' place. The porch light is on, always left for Lauren. It used to be for both of us. Until I became someone they couldn't define. The GPS leads me to the Waterfront Officers Club. Marble stairs, polished brass railings, high ceilings echoing with military formality. It smells like starch and old pride. I park, kill the engine, and just sit there. Heart pounding. Not because I'm afraid of the gala or the questions or the polished officers with suspicious eyes. I'm afraid of them. Of the way they'll look at me when it's real. Not just a rumor or a shadow, but flesh and blood truth. I inhale. You're not doing this for their approval, I remind myself. You're doing it because hiding has become a second kind of war. Inside, the ballroom is glowing. Navy blues and Air Force whites. Medals on every chest. Lauren is at the center, radiant in her new major's uniform, talking animatedly to a circle of admirers. Dad stands nearby, drink in hand, chin lifted like he's hosting a summit. Mom is adjusting silverware at the nearest table. Her hands shake. I walk in alone. No fanfare. Just the click of my boots on marble and the sharp inhale of my mother when she sees me. Riley, she whispers, voice catching in her throat. Mom, I say, steady. She hugs me tight, too tight, then steps back, her eyes searching my face. You look tired, she says softly. Long flight. Behind her, Dad glances over. His expression? Controlled. Military, but his jaw tightens. Lauren turns, her posture stiffening the moment she spots me. Her smile doesn't touch her eyes. Well, look who made it, she says, her voice loud enough for nearby guests to hear. Fresh off the front lines of her cubicle. A few people chuckle, polite and unsure. I smile, calm. Always nice to be invited to someone else's victory lap. Her eyes narrow, just slightly. Dinner is tense. I sit at the end of the table beside a Navy medic who keeps glancing at my name tag like he's trying to connect dots. Dad holds court again, swapping war stories with a retired vice admiral. Lauren soaks up the praise like it's her birthright. No one mentions Syria, or SEALs, or me, until dessert. Lauren stands for her toast. Champagne glass in hand, the room hushes. To service, she begins, glowing with self-importance, to the armed forces, and to the families that build us into leaders. Applause. She looks down at me. And to my sister Riley, who's here tonight. Somewhere between decoding spreadsheets and sorting top-secret coffee orders, she found time to support her big sis. Laughter. All eyes turn to me. I say nothing, just raise my glass and sip. Lauren sits, smirking. Then, a chair scrapes across the floor. A young Air Force captain stands up from the next table. Broad-shouldered, tan, clean-cut. His eyes lock on me. He straightens and salutes. Commander Hayes, he says, loud enough to cut through the room. Ma'am, it's an honor. Silence falls. Forks stop moving. Glasses pause midair. Lauren blinks. Excuse me. The captain doesn't budge. You pulled my unit out of Aleppo, March 18th. I've been trying to thank you for months. Dad's head snaps toward me. Mom covers her mouth. I think you've got the wrong person, Lauren says quickly. My sister isn't... She's not even in combat ops. But the captain's face doesn't change. With all due respect, ma'am, I'd recognize her anywhere. She led the exfil. Saved every last one of us. Lauren's jaw clenches. That's impossible. I stand slowly. I don't raise my voice. I don't smile. No, I say. It's not. The room holds its breath. Dad rises, his posture sharp. Riley, he says, voice low. Is this true? I meet his gaze. Years of silence crash in my throat. Yes, sir, I say. I've been serving in a classified SEAL unit for 6 years. The Syria op was mine. He sways slightly, like he's been punched in the stomach. Mom makes a strangled sound, tears slipping down her cheeks. Lauren stands, her hand flat on the table like she's steadying herself. You lied, she hisses. All this time, you let me think you were... What? I cut in. Less? She flinches. You let me carry your pity like a badge, I continue. You made me feel small at every dinner, every holiday, every ceremony, because you needed to be the only hero. Her voice shakes. You should have told us. You never asked, I say. The captain steps forward again. Major Hayes, he says gently. I didn't mean to compromise her cover. I just thought her family knew. Lauren stares at him like he's speaking another language. You mean to tell me, she says slowly. My sister, the girl who dropped out of Annapolis, who skipped the academy, who couldn't even throw a football, is Ghost? I nod. I'm Ghost. Gasps ripple across the room. A voice cuts through the tension. Then let it be known, says a firm, calm voice at the head of the room. An admiral rises from a nearby table. His face is pale but composed. She led the SEAL extraction in Syria, confirmed. Commendation filed under eyes only. Commander Riley Hayes. He nods to me, salutes, and the room, slowly, one by one, stands with him. Even the skeptics, even the ones who laughed, even Lauren. In that moment, I'm not invisible. I'm not the footnote. I am everything they never imagined I could be. Not because they finally see me, but because I stopped waiting to be seen. The applause fades. The standing crowd slowly sinks back into their chairs. But the air still vibrates, heavy with something that wasn't here before. Truth. Unfiltered. Uninvited. Irreversible. Lauren sits last. Her face unreadable, her shoulders tight. The glow of her promotion is gone now, eclipsed by the realization that her little sister was never in her shadow, just on a different battlefield. Dad stays standing. He doesn't look at anyone, not even me. He stares down at the glass in his hand like it holds the answer to every question he's never asked me. Finally, he says, You should have told us, Riley. I exhale, not bitter, just tired. Would you have believed me? I ask quietly. He looks at me then. Really looks. The way a man might examine a soldier's wound not to assess damage, but to understand survival. I would have tried, he says. That's the closest thing to an apology I've ever heard from him. But even that feels too late. Back at the table, Mom reaches for my hand. Her fingers tremble. You saved people, she whispers. You were out there saving lives, and we thought you were safe in an office. I needed you to think that, I say. That was part of the job. She closes her eyes. A tear escapes. Lauren doesn't say anything. Her fingers curl around her champagne glass so tightly the stem might snap. I almost say something, almost soften, but then she speaks. You made me look like a fool, she says under her breath, her voice sharp. I blink. That's what you took from all this? You lied, for years, and now you show up here and let some captain expose everything I didn't know, in front of our entire command circle. I laugh, low and bitter. You mean the circle that applauds you at every turn while you roll your eyes at me behind your flute of champagne? She stiffens. That's not fair, isn't it? I lean forward. You weren't mad when I let you feel superior. But the second I stop hiding, you feel betrayed? Because I trusted you, she snaps. I believed you when you said you were just intel. No, I say. You wanted to believe that. You needed to. Her face twists. And now, I add, you finally have to see me. Not your sidekick, not your cautionary tale. Me. The Admiral approaches our table. Commander Hayes, he says, voice formal. If you'll permit me a word? I rise, following him to a quiet alcove off the ballroom. He crosses his arms, watching me with the cool scrutiny only a man with 30 years of combat command can carry. I take it your family was unaware, he says. I nod. They didn't know. Until tonight. They weren't supposed to, but the Syria leak made it inevitable. He studies me. You know this might cost you. I do. Chain of command doesn't like surprises. Neither do sisters, I mutter. The Admiral chuckles, a single sound. You're not the first operator to carry secrets home like live grenades, but you might be one of the few to survive dropping one at a family function. I smirk, just slightly. Then he grows serious. You've done more than most men in your rank. We've reviewed your file. And I'm not the only one watching. People upstairs are taking note. What kind of note? Doors, he says simply. Doors you've earned the right to open. I nod. Not because I want promotion or power, but because being recognized without having to fight for it feels like breathing after too long underwater. He claps my shoulder gently. Good work out there, Ghost, and welcome back. Then he walks away. I return to the table. Lauren's gone. Dad, too. Mom sits alone, staring down at the linen napkin folded in her lap. She doesn't look up when I sit beside her. After a pause, she speaks. I should have asked more questions, she says. I should have seen you. I don't respond. Because what can you say to that? I thought I was keeping you safe by not asking, she continues. But maybe I was just protecting myself. You did what you thought was best. She nods. Then, almost inaudible, so did you. A beat passes. Will you forgive us? She asks. I already did, I say. A long time ago. I find Lauren on the veranda behind the ballroom. She's looking out over the harbor, arms crossed, wind teasing the ends of her crisp uniform blouse. I didn't mean to embarrass you, I say quietly. She doesn't turn. You didn't. I did. We stand in silence. Then she exhales. You know, I spent years thinking I was the only one holding up this family's reputation, like it was something fragile, like if I let go, everything would fall. I don't say anything. I mocked you, she admits, because if you were succeeding in silence, then maybe all my noise meant nothing. Finally, she looks at me. But you saved lives. You risked yours. And you never asked for a damn thing. No, I say. But sometimes, I wish I had. She nods. I'm proud of you, she says. For the first time, I believe her. That night, I sit alone in the hotel room, staring at the ceiling. My uniform folded neatly over the chair, my duffel half-packed for redeployment. The phone buzzes. Foster. Orders just came in. Syria again. You're leading. I stare at the screen, then I text back. Copy. I'll be there. I power down the phone. No medals, no fanfare, just another mission. And finally, no more hiding. Dawn breaks quietly over Charleston. The city stirs with a hush, boats shifting in the harbor, birds slicing through fog like whispered confessions. I zip my duffel slowly, deliberately. There's no rush. I've packed for deployment 100 times, but today feels different. Not because I'm leaving, but because I'm not leaving anything behind anymore. Downstairs, Mom makes coffee in that same chipped blue mug she's had since we were kids. She offers it to me without a word. Her eyes are puffy, but she doesn't cry again. We sit at the table like it's any other morning, like the world didn't shift last night. I still remember when you built that first drone, she says after a moment. You named it Emma, remember? After that book I used to read you. I nod. You said she'd be your eyes in the sky. Her voice catches. You've always wanted to see what others couldn't. I sip the coffee. It tastes like memory, like closure. Take care of yourself, Riley. I always do. She stands, wraps her arms around me, and this time, she holds on like she means it. Dad walks in just as I'm slipping on my jacket. He's already dressed, collared shirt tucked in, his navy ring gleaming. But there's something softer in his eyes. Less command, more man. You flying commercial or base transport? He asks. Base. He nods, as if this is all standard procedure, then hesitates. I looked you up, he admits. What I could, anyway. Most of it was redacted. But the words I saw: commanding officer, combat citation, lead strategist, they hit me harder than any of your sister's ribbons ever did. I swallow. You were never the quiet one, Riley. We just didn't know how to hear you. He steps forward. And then, almost awkwardly, he raises his hand in a salute. Commander Hayes, he says, it's been an honor. The gesture hits harder than any metal. I return the salute, voice tight. Thank you, sir. Lauren waits by the front door, car keys in hand. She doesn't wear a uniform today, just jeans and a windbreaker. Her hair's pulled back, face fresh. She looks younger, tired, human. I'll drive you, she says. You don't have to. I want to. The ride is quiet, but not strained. The city passes in sleepy blurs, the early morning golden in that hazy, poetic kind of way. Finally, she speaks. You remember that summer we fought over who'd get Dad's old compass? I laugh. You mean the one I hid in the laundry room for 3 days? I was furious, she grins. But you gave it back. You said I didn't deserve it. She glances over. I was wrong then too. We pull up to the base gate. She puts the car in park, then turns to me. Come back, okay? I meet her gaze. I always do. She hesitates, then pulls me into a hug. Tight. Real. Her voice is small when she whispers, You're not a ghost anymore. I pull back, eyes stinging. No, I say. But I still walk through walls. Inside the base hangar, my team waits. Mendoza waves from the chopper, her silhouette backlit by the rising sun. I climb aboard without fanfare, without pause. As we lift off, Charleston shrinks below us. The bridges, the water, the little white house with too many medals on the wall. I watch it all disappear into the clouds. We land in Qatar first, then transit to a forward operating base outside Damascus. The mission is already in motion. Intel shifting like sand, timing critical. We move like we always do. Quiet, clean, focused. But something's different now. It's not my posture, or my orders. It's the way they look at me. They don't just see rank. They see someone who stopped hiding, who paid the price for silence, and chose to break it anyway. 2 weeks later, we finish the op. 0 casualties. Intel secured, hostage rescued. Command issues another citation. Buried in classified files, just like the rest. I sit alone that night, writing my mission notes under a flickering tent light. Outside, the wind howls against the canvas like a restless ghost. I don't feel invisible anymore. I feel whole. A few days later, I get a letter. Real paper. Handwritten. From Lauren. Just a few lines. You always saw what I didn't. You were never behind me. You were just leading in silence. I'm listening now. It's signed. Major Lauren Hayes. No bravado, no sarcasm, just her name. And finally, her truth. When I fly home 3 months later, there's no parade, no fanfare. Just the slow creak of my apartment door, the hum of silence I've come to know as peace. I place my latest commendation in the drawer with the rest. No frame, no wall space. Then I walk into the bathroom, look into the mirror, and for the first time in years, I see myself. Not as a daughter, not as a sister, not even as a SEAL. Just as a woman who fought in more wars than one, and won the only one that ever mattered. The right to exist without apology. So if you've ever been told you couldn't handle the weight of your own strength, if your silence was mistaken for weakness, if they tried to write you out of your own legacy, remember this. You don't need their permission to be powerful. You just need your own damn voice. Because I was never the ghost. I was the storm that followed.